So, in my video on the damnation of replacement theology, cross-worshippers predicted in Numbers 24 verse 17 proved me wrong. In the last part of it, I had a little show and tell going on here about getting water, how to make your own water filter with PVC pipe. And I got one snide comment from somebody, and YouTube got rid of the comment. I don't really know the reason why, about fear-mongering. And then this fellow breaking free from the cross. The Bible says it will be done in 1 hour, but like you, I don't know. You are really good peace. Well, I responded this way. But wait, a month, a day, an hour, and a year. 6 shofar sound, Revelation 10 verse 7. It says that when the 7th shofar begins to sound, all the words of the prophet shall be fulfilled. That means the gathering of all Israel will occur at that time. Now, some people will say, well, that doesn't jibe with the 7 seals. Well, I'm going to show you something that you might not be aware of. And I personally would make sure that I have, at the very least, prepared for that amount of time. A lot of people are way too comfortable thinking that they don't need to be prepared. Revelation 3:17 is a cautionary tale. It is better to have preparations ready and not need it than to need it and not have it. Just saying. And don't call me good. Now, I want to first go to First Cephas. No, not Peter. First Cephas. The name that Yehoshua, not Jesus, gave to Shimon Bar Yonah was Cephas. And he said, where is it? I'm just going to read this whole section here. You're going to get a lot out of this. Beloved, think it not strange concerning the fiery trial which is coming to try you. Now, who was Cephas an apostle to? Not the Gentiles. He was an apostle to the Israelites. So he was speaking to them in Hebrew, with the exception of Yochanan. He was the only one, with the exception of Yochanan, all 12 disciples were Galilean, and yes, Yochanan was Galilean too, but these 12 apostles, with the exception of Yochanan, could only speak Galilean Aramean, which is a Jewish version of Aramean. Aramean is Hebrew. Because Yochanan was locked up in a Greek prison, I suspect he was eventually able to learn Greek or Roman. If the Romans spoke Greek at that time, I'm not sure how that was. All right. So, he is speaking to Hebrews in Hebrew. When he says, and he is speaking to them because they are Israelites. The strange, think it not strange concerning the fire trial which is coming to try you, as though some strange things are happening unto you, as if you were shocked that it came. Now, what fiery trial was he talking about? The Roman invasion of Jerusalem in 70 AD. That was the fiery trial he was talking about. That was the day of wrath upon the Jews of Jerusalem in those days. But rejoice inasmuch as you are partakers of not Christ, but Moshiach's suffering, that when his glory will be revealed, you may be also glad with exceeding joy. And if you are reproached for the name of the Moshiach, which is Yehoshua, not Jesus, as I have often pointed out in these videos, happy are you, for the Ruach of glory of Elohim rests upon you. On their part, evil is spoken of, but on your part, glorified. Do not let any of you suffer the wage of sins of a murderer, or as a thief, or as an evildoer, as a busybody in other men's matters. If any man suffer as not a Christian, not a Christian, but an Aramean, as in Arabic it's Nasara or Nasrani. In Hebrew it's Natsri. Natsri would be singular, Natsrim would be plural. So if you suffer as a Natsri, don't be ashamed, but glorify Elohim on this behalf, for the time is come. And he is speaking of the great fiery trial that is to come upon them. That judgment must first begin at the house of Jehovah. What is the house of Jehovah? That was the temple. Well, in order for judgment to come upon the temple, judgment must come upon Jerusalem. And if the judgment came upon Jerusalem, it must come upon all of Judea in those days. So he was speaking of the imminent invasion by Vespasian and Titus against Jerusalem. And if it first began with us, the Hebrews, what shall the, now this word, the end, what shall be the principal end, the final end, the end of days? Of them that obey not the glad tidings of Jehovah. And if the righteous are scarcely, with difficulty, barely make it out of the tribulation alive. That's right. Where shall the impious and the sinner appear? Well, it's going to be done in one day, huh? And as I said, wait a minute. What about Revelation 9 and verse 18? And why am I pointing out Revelation 9 and verse 18? Before I go to Revelation 9 and 18, I'm going to go to Revelation 10 and verse 7. But in the days of the voice of the seventh messenger, when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of Jehovah should be finished, should be completed, should be fulfilled, accomplished, and not fulfilled and accomplished until then, as he has declared to his servants the prophets. What did he declare to his servants the prophets? Okay, all of Deuteronomy 30, Isaiah 66, Isaiah 60, Ezekiel 38, 39, Jeremiah 31, especially verses 31 through 34. The last half of Zechariah 14. Haggai 2, verses 18 through 22. And there's more. So, the regathering of all Israel is going to begin, occur and be finished when the seventh trumpet begins to sound. So that means it's going to happen in the sixth trumpet sound. Now, some of you might say, well, wait a minute, no, you're skipping over the seven seals. Aha. Hold on a minute. I want to show you what it says in the sixth trumpet sound first. And the sixth messenger sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar which is before Elohim, saying to the sixth messenger which had the shofar, loose the four messengers which are bound in the great river Euphrates. And the four messengers were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day, and a month and a year, for to slay the third part of men. There is no weapon on the face of the earth that can slay a third part of men, with the exception of one, and that is nuclear weapons. And the number of the horsemen were 10,000, 10,000, not 200,000. And I heard the number of them, and I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them having breastplates with the color of fire. Go look at the Yars, the Russian Yars mobile ICBMs, and you will see all of this in its glory. On its breastplates, the color of fire, of jacinth and brimstone. Jacinth is either black and orange or black and yellow. In this case, it's black and yellow. The Russians changed the colors of the ribbon of St. George or St. Gog because, listen folks, I have done these videos. I have proven that George and Gog is the same name. Okay? And I have proven to you using pictures that this is exactly what is on the sides of the Yars mobile ICBMs. And the heads of the horses were like heads of lions. Lions have wide heads, not narrow heads like horses. So do the ICBMs. And out of the mouth came fire and smoke and brimstone. And when the ICBM missile launcher is raised up, you will see a mouth on the top where the missile lays down in and raises up from. By these three was a third part of the men killed, by the fire, by the smoke. How are a third of men killed by smoke? Radioactive smoke, folks. And by the brimstone, which came out of their mouth, for their power is in their mouth and in their tail. Well, when the missile lays down, it lays down in the mouth of the ICBM, and when it raises up, it becomes a tail. And the tails were like unto serpents' tails, and those tails had heads. Warheads! Come on, folks! Now, what am I saying? Once again, but in the days of the voice of the seventh messenger, when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of Jehovah should be fulfilled. I fulfill, I accomplish. That's when it occurs. Now, let's go back to concerning the parallels. There are parallels of the 7 seals and the 7 shofar sounds. And so what I want to do is I want to show you by the visions that were given to Pharaoh. There were multiple visions, but the visions said the same thing. Am I saying that the visions in Yochanan's accounting are the same things? Watch how Jehovah works, is what I'm saying. And you decide for yourself. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and brought him hastily out of the dungeon, and he shaved himself, and changed his raiment. And it came in to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard say of you that you can understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not in me. Elohim shall give Pharaoh an answer. Does not say of peace. It could mean of peace, but in this case, a complete answer. The other word is shalom, but the word shalom has more than one meaning. In this case, a complete answer. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, In my dream, I stood upon the bank of the river, and behold, there came up out of the river 7 cattle, fat-fleshed and well-favored, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 other cattle came up after them, poor and ill-favored, and lean-fleshed, such as I never saw in all of the land of Egypt, because it was so bad. And the lean and the ill-favored cattle did eat up the 7 fat cattle. And when they had eaten them up, it could not be known that they had eaten them. But they were still ill-favored as it was in the beginning. So then I awoke. And I saw in my dream a second vision. And behold, 7 ears came up of one stalk, full and good. And behold, 7 ears withered thin and blasted with the east wind sprung up after them, and the thin ears devoured the 7 good ears, and I told this unto the magicians, but there was none that could declare it to me. And Joseph said unto Pharaoh, the dream of Pharaoh is one. Or, properly translated, these 2 dreams are the same dream. Now, am I saying that the 7 seals and the 7 trumpet sounds are the same thing? I think they might be. I think they are. Go and examine them for yourself. And hopefully you'll come up with the right conclusion. So, I want to show you something else. Take heed if you think you stand lest you fall. We just read that, right? Exodus 8. The 4th plague of flies. And Jehovah said unto Moshe, rise up in the morning and stand before Pharaoh. And he comes to the water, and say unto him, thus says Jehovah, let my people go, that they may serve me, or else, if you will not let my people go, I will send swarms of flies unto your servants, and upon your people, and in your house, and in the house of the Egyptians shall be full of swarms of flies, and also on the ground where they are, and I will sever in that day the land of Goshen, in which my people dwell, that no swarms of flies shall be there to the end, that you may know Jehovah in the midst of the earth, and I will put a division between my people and your people. Tomorrow shall this sign be. And that means that in the 3rd plague, nope, he made no division. The Israelites suffered the same plague of gnats. The Israelites suffered the same plague of frogs. The Israelites suffered the same plague of water turning into blood. That's right. So what have you got to say for yourself? Oh, ye men who think that you're in good standing. Next, what I want to do for those of you who think you've got it figured out, think you've got it made, Revelation 3 and verse 15, I know your works, that you are neither cold nor hot. I would you were cold or hot. So then, because you are lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will spew you out of my mouth. But it gets more interesting. Because you say, I am rich and increase with goods, and I have need of nothing. I do not need to prepare. I've got it covered. I need no preparations. I know exactly what's going to happen and what I'm going to do. I don't need to find a way to get clean water. And as in Matityahu 25, the parable of the 5 wise and the 5 foolish virgins, I don't need to put extra oil in my lamps. I don't need to bring extra oil for my lamp. No. You see, folks, And you do not know that you are wretched, miserable, poor, blind, and naked. Now think about this, folks. When you think that you're going to walk out of here before there is a food logistics failure, you sure? Are you 100% certain? That's the reason why here in this, my response was, it is better to have preparations ready and not need it than to need it and not have it. Just saying. So the 5 wise virgins of the parable of the 5 wise and 5 foolish virgins, they had extra oil for the lamps and they found out that they needed it. Whereas the 5 foolish didn't think that they needed the extra oil and found out that they did. Some of y'all are way, way, way too complacent. I want you to think about the fact that the ancient Israelites had to suffer through the plague of blood. Water got scarce. They had to suffer through the plague of frogs and the plague of gnats. And it was only at the 4th plague that Jehovah show a difference between the people of Israel and the Egyptians. And you are no better, I promise you. What I'm saying is the complacency here is maddening. I don't know what I have to do to wake you people up. This is extremely serious. I have showed you that the words of the prophets will be fulfilled after a third of the men on the earth are killed. Now let that sink in. You better find a way to get yourself ready for this situation that's occurring right here and right there in front of your face. If you want to escape to Israel, you had better have a suitcase packed with everything, including an extra pair of shoes. You had better have food stored away, because you don't know what plagues you're going to have to go through before the regathering of Israel occurs. And there is no rapture, folks. And some of you are going to find out the hard way that the church stole, with their rapture doctrine, stole the regathering of Israel from the Israelites and used it to deceive the church, when in fact it is Israel. Isaiah 60. The regathering of all Israel occurs when there is darkness upon the Gentiles. Read it! Why is there darkness upon them? Because they've been launching nuclear weapons at each other. The survivors of Israel among the Gentiles will then be regathered. I don't know if I'm going to be a survivor of all of this. I made sure that I move myself as far away as I can from the big city and yet still be, because not every city is going to be hit with the first launch. This is serious. You've got to take this situation that is occurring right now in front of your eyes seriously, or you won't be ready. And I fear that 99% of the folks that are watching my videos will not be ready.